OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC podcast, and welcome to oh my goodness, you guys just went for a trip. Welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Let's get straight into it. So this week on Raw, we got to see Jade and Bianca arriving, as well as Damage Control. These teams have a tag team opportunity later on in the night for the women's tag titles, and we also saw Gunther and Ludwig arriving, Cody Rhodes and Rhea Ripley arriving to the arena as well too. Rhea Ripley made her way out to the ring, and we ended up seeing a Bad Blood recap, as well as the SmackDown video clip that has led us up until this point. Rhea goes ahead and says that she's not done with Raquel, and she's also not done with Liv Morgan as well too, and she is not going to stop until she gets her Women's World Championship back. And she's like, girls, if you are done running, get out here so I can whip your asses. When none other than Tiffany Stratton, Miss Money in the Bank, Tiffy Time, her music hits, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I did not watch SmackDown. This is really weird. I felt like I was in a different time zone, different time era, because obviously I don't review SmackDown. But anyway, she comes out and she goes, I guess I'm not who you were expecting. And she goes on to say that she has an important message from Nia Jax, and that's to stay out of her business or there is going to be a big problem. Now, Rhea goes, I understand that you think that this is Tiffy time, but I don't have time for this. I'm going to welcome you to Monday Night Raw the Rhea Ripley way. And they get into a bit of an argument back and forth before we end up seeing Liv Morgan and Raquel attack both Rhea and Tiffany from behind, and they end out laying out on Rhea and Tiffany. Oh my goodness, my brain cannot comprehend the fact that two of my favorite stars are like in the ring together. Like, this is insane. We had a video promo segment for the women's tag team titles, apparently how these are like important. Don't think they are, but anyway, we're going to be having the match between Bianca, Jade and Damage Control very shortly. Then we ended up seeing Rhea after the segment that happened with her and Tiffany, and Adam Pearce comes in and they basically set up the tag match with Liv and Raquel taking on Rhea and Tiffany later on in the evening. It was really funny to see Tiffany reacting and obviously interacting with Adam Pearce. She's like, Nick Aldis wouldn't have let this happen to me, blah blah blah. It was kind of cute. It was actually kind of funny. So we make our way to the first match of the night, which is for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. Now we have the challengers Damage Control taking on the team of the champions, that being Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. Jade starts off with her power against Io. Io's technical prowess ends up shining throughout this match, and Jade and Bianca use their strength and teamwork to dominate early on. Damage Control end up acting quickly, and Kairi's looking really solid in this match. She ends up hitting a crossbody to Jade outside of the ring, and then we have a commercial break. When we get back, Io is in control and she's pissed off and she attacks super hard. We end up seeing Bianca spearing Io, which we never see Bianca do spears anymore, so it's kind of cool when we get to see that. Jade and Kairi have some really great in-ring chemistry, and they have some really good sequencing with each other back and forth. Then there's a moment where Jade and Bianca set up a move onto Kairi, but Kairi ends up dodging the move, and we end up seeing Bianca get slammed onto the mat. Jade obviously was not intending for that to happen, but these kind of things happen. Damage Control find the momentum. They had a modified insane elbow. Forgot to mention at the beginning of the match as well too that Lash Legend and Dakara Jackson are actually ringside as well from NXT. They end up getting involved during the match as well too whilst they are standing ringside. And then Bianca ends up capitalizing off of this moment and hits a vertical suplex and a KOD to secure the win. And obviously her and Jade retain the titles. This is cool to see, but this is a really good match nonetheless from all four of these ladies. In this we end up seeing JD McDonough and Finn Balor walking backstage together. They end up running into Adam Pearce, and Finn asks about the rematch with Damian if that has happened, and Adam's like, no, because you've got obligations as tag team champions, and I'm going to be setting up a tournament for the tag titles for some contenders for those belts because you have obligations as champions to actually defend these titles. And then the rest of Judgment Day comes in, and Liv's asking, how'd you go getting your rematch with Damian? And then they were talking about how they're all going to defend their titles. And then Raquel comes in and Liv's like, meet Raquel, and then Carlito drops his apple, so maybe he's developing a bit of a crush on Raquel. Raquel's not saying anything either, so I don't know if this is a part of her gimmick, but they're not really letting her speak very much. We had a few more moments backstage, so we got to see an American-made video package, which was really cool, and we got to see a Bron Breakker video package as well. We got to see that earlier on in the day, Adam Pearce and Bronson Reed actually had a sit-down meeting together. Adam Pearce goes on to say that Bronson has done a lot within his time on being on Monday Night Raw and has done a lot to get under Adam Pearce's skin, but he just wants to basically ask him like what was with everything that he did with Braun. And, you know, he says, I want us both to be on the same page. And we see Bronson defending his actions and giving reasons as to why he did what he did. He wanted to get noticed. He wants to be a top guy. He wants to do all of these things and asks for a match against Seth Rollins to prove that he's a top guy. And he's like, look, if you let this happen for me, I will not cause any more drama. I'll put my head down. I won't cause any more trouble. So Adam Pearce says that he will have a talk with Seth Rollins in regards to this. Back to the ring where we have the first number one contenders opportunity match for the WWE Tag Team titles, that being the ones that JD and Finn are holding. So we have the Alpha Academy taking on what seems to be the Viking Raiders at first, but we quickly see the Titantron has changed and they've now been taken back and rebranded to the War Raiders. I'm kind of happy about this because I'm not a huge fan of the Viking Raiders. I feel like that gimmick is just not for me. But they had a really great showing in this match, considering this is their first tag team match in like a year. They'd referenced on commentary. They've been out for quite some time, both of them respectively due to injury. Otis ends up overpowering Ivar, and then Eric slams Ivar onto Akira. There's some big knees coming in from the War Raiders. Otis gets a hot tag in and comes in with the Caterpillar, but Ivar ends up disrupting this. And we have the finishing move from the War Raiders take place, which is called the Fallout. And now they secure the win, so they are obviously moving on in the tournament for the tag title opportunity. Seth Rollins is in the locker room and Adam Pearce catches up with him, and Seth asks, have you caught up with Bronson Reed? And Adam Pearce says yes, and Seth's like, did you make the match official? And Adam's like, well, no, like I'm a bit apprehensive about this match. And Seth Rollins cuts an impassioned promo talking about how Bronson Reed wants to make a name off his name, and I'm the reason that I run this place. I've slayed beasts, conquered kings, and it sounds fun to hunt a monster. He talks about how when he was younger, you know, you always go for the top guy, and now the same thing is happening with Bronson Reed. I really enjoyed not only the sit-down interview that we got to see, or the sit-down meeting between Adam and Bronson, but I also really enjoyed this like impassioned promo from Seth Rollins. I mean, a lot of people say that all he does is geeky, dorky stuff, but if you give him the opportunity to cut a really good promo, my man will do that. I was just so happy to see him. I was just like, such awe of that man. Cody Rhodes is actually featuring on Raw this week, and now he's coming out to the ring and he starts cutting a promo talking about the rich roots within professional wrestling that this city has had. They're obviously in St. Louis, Missouri, and he talks about this is the first time, and this was the first place that we heard the We Want Cody movement take place, and he thanks everybody for that. Gunther ends up coming out and he starts gloating on Cody, and he says, you know, normally I like to dress my opponent down, but I don't have very much negative to say about you. This boom period that we have within professional wrestling, it's all built off your back. You make the towns, you make the countries, and I've got a lot of respect for you. But something that I don't really appreciate about you is that you love to be everybody's darling. You know, you're in a mess with Kevin Owens. You need to sort out this emotional mess because I want the best version of Cody Rhodes when it comes to Saudi Arabia. And Cody's like, well, you think that my greatest weakness is that, but I actually think it's my greatest strength. I've got one observation, and, you know, I've seen what happens when you go ahead and throw everything that's within your arsenal in a moment where you're uncomfortable. You know, you end up breaking, and you think you're swimming in deep waters, but your feet are still touching the floor. You've never been in the ring with me before, and Gunther ends up calling Cody a secondary champion, which I thought was quite a funny comment to say. Cody goes on to say that Gunther is a frightening beast, but he goes on and says that he's defeated the most dominant champion within the company history. He says that I've slayed a fighting beast, and the two end up shaking hands, and Gunther says good luck to me, and he leaves. And I'm kind of like, I really hope that Gunther doesn't lose this, because I don't know. I've got so many thoughts about this Crown Jewel match. I feel like this is a situation with both of these guys where you don't want either of them to lose. So I feel like setting up this like opportunity at Crown Jewel is just a massive waste of time, in my opinion. I just cannot see a reality where Cody Rhodes wins, and I cannot see a reality where Gunther loses, and vice versa. It just doesn't work for me. We had a few more moments going on backstage. We had a really cool Dragon Lee video package, and we ended up seeing the recap that's been happening with the New Day as of late, and we saw a clip that happened after the show as well too. And so we go back to the ring where we have the match between Bron Breakker and Kofi Kingston. Kofi ends up drop kicking Bron, but then Kofi comes in hot. Bron over overpowers Kofi, and then Bron ends up coming and forcing Kofi into the turnbuckle with a lot of power and strength. Kofi ends up finding a second gear, but then Bron ends up attacking him, and following the commercial break, Bron is still in control with the match. Bron ends up running shoulder first into the ring post, and Kofi hits a springboard crossbody, which was super cool to see. We see boom drop coming in by Kofi, and Bron hits a belly-to-belly suplex, and he ends up hitting a spear, and this secures the win for Bron Breakker. But following the match, we end up seeing Xavier come out to help Kofi, but it's a little bit too late in my opinion, because they make a reference on commentary that he wasn't ringside for this match. He's obviously come and helped out at the very end, and then Bron ends up attacking Xavier, but Jay comes out and spears Bron, which obviously this is kind of in reference to the promo that we saw take place with Bron Breakker just before, but also there's a bit of riff-raff between them, and it looks like we could be getting a rematch for the Intercontinental Championship. Rhea Ripley's backstage and she's preparing for her tag match later on in the evening. Damien runs into her and asks how she's feeling, and she's like, you know what, I'm a little bit apprehensive about this. I guess we just have to see how it goes. And they basically start talking about how Damien needs to start going after his title again, and then Damien's like, look, if you have beef with the Judgment Day, I have beef with the Judgment Day. And then Jey Uso's backstage after this moment with the New Day happened, where he went out and got speared or he spears Bron, I should say, and he opens up a door to go into a locker room, and Jimmy Uso's sitting there. And he looks at him and goes, have you got a second? And Jay just shuts the door and leaves. It's not the only time we see Jimmy Uso on Raw this week. We head back to the ring. We have a super short and non-meaningful match between Miz and R-Truth. Truth tries to shake Miz's hand from the beginning. We see a Wyatt Six glitch coming through, and the Final Testament come out, and R-Truth secures the win via a roll-up. Kind of like, what the fuck's going on here? And then the Miz is still in the ring, and Truth tries to leave, but then AOP end up grabbing Truth and throw him back into the ring, and Miz hits a skull-crushing finale. Don't really know what's going on here, but that's totally fine. Head backstage again, where we see Jimmy Uso is actually looking for Jey Uso backstage, and Jimmy's going and looking through different doors. He finds Jey eventually and asks Jey to hear him out, and Jey's like, get out of my face. So you can tell that Jey does not really want any part of what is going on with Jimmy right now. I have a prediction and a theory that I feel like maybe he speaks to Sammy next week, whether that's Jimmy speaking to Sammy or Jey speaking to Sammy saying Jimmy's been trying to recruit us again. Head back to the ring, we have the main event, which is Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton. I know, shocker, love this tag team, taking on Liv Morgan and Raquel. Now, this was a shorter match for a main event, but it was really incredible, actually, to say. I really enjoyed seeing Tiffany and Rhea working together. The inner workings of this was quite funny. Rhea was trying to delegate Tiffany to stay outside during the entire match. She did not want any part of it. But by the end of the match, they started to get on the same page. So Rhea dominates Liv super quickly, and then we end up seeing Liv quickly tag in Raquel. Raquel and Rhea face off, but then Tiffany tags herself in. She ends up outsmarting Raquel with a lot of her agility and quickness, and then we end up seeing Rhea and Tiffany arguing ringside, and then Liv ends up getting launched over the ring ropes. Following this, we have a commercial break, but when we get back, Liv's in control over Tiffany. Raquel's power is on display, and she hits a really nice vertical suplex. Rhea comes in hot, and she ends up ruining Liv Morgan for quite a lot of the match, which was really exciting to see. Don't know if you guys know I love Rhea Ripley, but I do. She goes for the Riptide, and she hits it, but then Raquel comes in before the 3 count happens to save Liv. Nia Jax comes in, which actually gets this match completely thrown out, and she ends up attacking Rhea Ripley out of nowhere, and she goes to see if Tiffany's okay, but then Rhea comes back and headbutts Nia. Then we see Liv going for Rhea's leg. Then Nia ends up attacking Liv, and then Nia suggests to Tiffany that this is the perfect opportunity to cash in for a title opportunity, but then Dom pulls Liv out of the ring before the cash in actually gets to be made official. And this is how we end Monday Night Raw this week. Obviously, this whole segment is kind of preparing us for Crown Jewel, because we have Liv Morgan and Nia Jax taking on each other for the Crown Jewel Championship. That brings us to the end of this week's Monday Night Raw review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure you go ahead and like the video, as well as commenting something down below that you enjoyed about Raw this week, where you see the Bloodline story going. If you enjoyed the tag team of Tiffany and Rhea, love to know what you guys think, so let us know info down below. While you're there as well too, you should absolutely subscribe to the channel and hit the notify bell down below. If you do that, you will not miss any of our future uploads, whether it's a podcast or a review for WWE. We would hate for you to miss those, so make sure you go ahead and hit the notify bell down below. While you're there as well too, you should check out the description down below. You can find all the links to Outcasted on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok, as well as all of our personal socials, so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we're not posting on the channel. As always, your regular NXT review is coming in from Reese this week, as well as the podcast on Thursday, and the SmackDown review will be coming from JEY later on this week. As always, I've been Courtney from the Outcasted OC. I've really enjoyed doing this week's Raw review, and I'll see you guys in the podcast this week. Bye guys.